More now on the breaking news involving President-elect Trump's controversial pick to be the U.S. Attorney General. Just resigned, GOP Congressman Matt Gaetz says he has now withdrawn his name from Senate consideration. Joining us this afternoon, Ankush Khardori is a senior writer for Politico and a former federal prosecutor and someone to whom we turn when it comes to legal matters. And this is a legal matter. It is a political matter. It touches just about all the bases this afternoon. Maybe not a surprise. Perhaps, though, it came a little earlier than some people thought. What's the general reaction?
Yeah, I think that actually is a good synopsis, because I think in the recent days, my colleagues at Politico and reporters at other places throughout D.C. have been reporting that there was significant opposition to Gaetz's nomination within the Senate Republican caucus, and obviously he could only have lost a few votes from that group and still be confirmed, but it seemed like there were potentially dozens of no votes among Senate Republicans, and it didn't seem to be softening. And the facts seemed to be moving against him as well. Even facts that were reported by CNN today concerning more on this sort of underlying allegations of sexual misconduct. But to your point, I mean, I sort of suspected, quite honestly, that Gaetz was going to stick it out for a little bit longer, that even Trump might want him to stick it out for a little while longer, simply because, they wanted to make a point about this. And, not for nothing, Trump himself and has had multiple appointees and nominees accused of sexual misconduct over the years. And that is not a deal breaker for him.
I think that also nicely sort of sums up where things are with all of this. It exists on a lot of different layers here, too, because Matt Gaetz, his entire career up on Capitol Hill is that of a fighter. Call him whatever name you want, and he'll lean into that and lead with accusations of his own. To me, the surprise here, and it'll be interesting to see what happens on down the line, is the tweet announcing this today sounded like something that had been sent through AI a couple of times, rather than Matt Gaetz writing that, okay, you won this round, but look out, I'm coming back later on. It was fairly straightforward and pretty mild to my ear.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was not the typical Gaetz sort of bombast and rhetoric. He's prone to sort of overstatement and combativeness, and that's been a hallmark of his, time in the Congress. And it is ironic that his exit statement is perhaps sort of the most professional and measured thing that we've seen from him in quite some time. But his conduct in Congress, it cannot be disentangled from all this, right? It's part of the reason why he had such intense opposition within the House and the Senate. And it's part of the reason why, people like me and a lot of current and former Justice Department people and legal observers found him to be, frankly, manifestly unfit for this position, not just in terms of his experience or lack thereof, but also in terms of his temperament, his character, and his judgment.
And Ankush, you anticipated my question there, too, because, yes, folks at DOJ were, to say they're dismayed, I think, is a bit of an understatement. Maybe they're not breathing a whole lot easier now, because you don't know then who's next. But what might have happened? Yes, it's conjecture, but I think there are a lot of people who probably had to be talking about, wow, if this guy's going to be our boss, I'm not sure I can work there anymore.
Yeah, there has been talk about this in recent weeks. I wouldn't have expected sort of a mass exodus, because to my mind, what we heard the last couple of weeks was not that dissimilar from the first term when Trump was elected and then nominated Jeff Sessions. There was a lot of internal consternation within the department there, too, because there were very credible claims that Sessions had a history of sort of racist statements and indulging racist conduct. And so people were dismayed there, too. At the end of the day, what tends to happen is that, some of the longer term career people, they may decide to leave when there's a controversial nominee or an AG who's appointed. But the vast majority of the prosecutors, I mean, their day-to-day work does not change that much from attorney general to attorney general. But of course, that person exerts an enormous amount of control over discrete and very important matters. So there's this sort of a weird sort of disjunction, because for the most part, people won't be affected day to day by who the attorney general is. But on the most important things, the things that the country cares about, the things that Donald Trump cares about, his political opponents care about, the attorney general exerts tremendous influence.
Ankush, stepping back from the headline too, he was not the only person with potential legal entanglements here. How much of this is this case and this case alone, and how much of this is perhaps a signal from Mar-a-Lago that don't handicap the administration before we even get to town and find where the bathrooms are in our office, those kinds of things. We don't need this sort of distraction before we're even close.
Yeah, well, the irony of this situation is, the Gaetz's conduct or the allegations that are made against them, those have been in circulation.
They are not new. You're absolutely right.
They're not new, right? So Trump and his transition team knew about them. It probably knew that this ethics report was on deck, and it may have been a part of Gaetz's calculus for wanting to step down and get the nomination in the first place, even though he may have known himself that it wouldn't get through.
Yes.
At the same time, as you suggested, we have Pete Hegseth, who's been nominated to be the Secretary of Defense, who's facing his own extremely serious set of allegations that are quite qualitatively different, and that include things like a police report that was produced overnight. And, Hegseth, it seems, he may not have told Trump and his transition team about this issue and about the underlying settlement. And so, I don't know. I think it's an interesting question, the one that you posed. And I think Hegseth will kind of be the answer, because how Hegseth is handled, whether they stick by him or whether they cut him loose as well, I think will answer your question.
And Matt, on that case with Hegseth at over at the Pentagon, I'm surprised, frankly, at the wording of the opposition from some senior, they're retired, but they are all well thought of and decorated and great American military men and some women, but they're brooking no, they don't want to have any sort of compromise involved in this. They think this is a guy who shouldn't be leading the American military. Yes, he has a military career, but this is not the sort of person, particularly in what may wind up being fraught times, that we want to see running the military machine.
Yeah, no, I mean, he has a version of the problem that Gaetz had, although for Hegseth, it's even bigger. These guys have not managed anything of any consequence in their lives. The Justice Department's a very big institution. Department of Defense is multiples bigger in terms of personnel and its budget. And for Hegseth to come in and with this lack of experience, I think it has been not altogether surprising, but still quite notable that he has drawn this public criticism, because you hear this from military folks themselves. For the most part, when a Secretary of Defense goes up for a nomination, particularly if it's a veteran, they do not try to kind of weigh in, right? They want the political process to play out, and they tend not to disparage their fellow current or former service members unless they have to. So the criticism that has come out and that's being reported from and the consternation that's being reported within the Pentagon concerning his potential nomination, these are very unusual things, and they reflect the seriousness of the allegations.
We have pretty well covered the waterfront this afternoon on what has been already a very busy day. And on a personal note, if I may please, Ankush, many thanks for all the help that you have provided me and our viewers. My time here is done as of tomorrow, but know that we genuinely appreciate your counsel and also your experience and perspective on all this. Appreciate it.
I sincerely appreciate that. It's been a pleasure joining you, and I've really been honored to have the opportunity to speak with you over the years, and I just congratulate you on sort of this milestone in the next chapter in your life.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it. Ankush Khardori is a senior writer for Politico. He's also himself a former prosecutor, so he has a lot of different perspective on this, and we appreciate it. Again, many thanks.